So one of the problems with this kit is the fact that even though it's supposed to be a cast hull, it's completely smooth. And they do have the edges rounded, which is nice, but we're going to have to add texture. So I'm going to start putting my xylene on here. I have to be very careful because there's some areas like here and here, these parts of the hatches that just, well, they aren't cast. So I have to be careful not to damage them at all. Also, back here you have the engine deck, which should just be some sheet metal. So obviously I'm not going to add texture there. So the same as we did on the turret, just put some of this xylene on, let it sit for a few seconds, and then we move our brush around. You can see here I've already done some on the side of the hull. And here we are. We've finished putting the cast texture on the hull. Don't think it's overdone, but you never know till we get paint on it. And it might even be underdone, but anyway, we definitely have some cast texture.
We have most of the road wheels on the hull. We're about to put a base coat of paint on this. You can see I had to use a little bit of putty in a couple of areas here because of the seams back here as well. But overall, not too terribly bad. So here we've given a base coat of OD to the hull. And the reason we've done this now is there's a whole other set of road wheels that needs to go here before I put the sides on and the tracks. So best to get this done and taken care of now, and then we can put all the other parts on that we need. One thing I'd like to point out is this transmission cover. This is a correct transmission cover for an M6. The one at Aberdeen Proving Ground is actually a T1E1 model of the M6. There were 20 of those built. This particular cast hull, I believe there were 8 of these cast hull M6s actually built. So this is actually the rarest of the group. What this
Now you can see, because I've chosen to go with this particular horn from the Hobby Boss, actually this is from the Hobby Boss kit. This is from my T26 Echo 4. Anyway, because I've chosen to go with this one versus the kit horn, I'm going to have to cut this off right here and remove it so that I can put that. So the time has come to paint the tracks for this M6. And these are those Dragon styrene tracks that everybody dreads, including myself. My trouble is mostly getting paint to stick to them. Now I'm going to use something here that's a lot of people have said is taboo. And I'm going to use some Rust-Oleum. Okay, and some people have said that this does eat the tracks. I haven't had that problem. As you can see, I've already given them one coat, and there's no problem with it eating the tracks at all. But there is a little bit of trouble with it adhering properly to the tracks. I have tried water-based paints, particularly the models paints, and well, I guess they stick to there, but they seem to kind of beat up the water-based paints. So I like to try and give these DS tracks, which are they're just awful, but I'm going to give them a light coating, another second light coating of this. And then of course I've got some washing to do, then I can put some water-based paint on. But for now, this is
I'm going to mix up some Mission Models paint. I'm going to use some Dunkel Gelb, believe it or not. I'm going to mix that up with the I think it's Rot Brown. Anyway, it's the brown that I use in painting my Panzers, and I'm gonna mix that together and give this a light coat. I can't tell you exactly what the mixture is. I want to say it's about 50-50.
what I'm going to try and do with these tracks, it's about a 4-step process, and I'm going to try and replicate what I did with the 1/6 scale Nashorn. I think those tracks turned out pretty good. And I'm just giving it a light coat of this, what I call track color. So the next step in our tracks, after that spray that I put on has dried, is I'm going to take some of my black wash that I call Larry's bath water, and I'm just going to wash the tracks with it and wait for that to dry. Now in this step, we're going to take some of Tamiya's gunmetal and lightly brush it onto the tracks. And as you can see, the results of this one that I've already done. So now in this step, I'm taking some Testors steel and I'm dry brushing over the tracks to kind of highlight the metal parts that would be touching the ground. Well, we're almost done with the M6, and you can see I've done a couple of things that I wasn't sure that I was necessarily going to do. In other words, I changed my mind. You can see I've added a 90mm gun to this. I was looking through, well, when I was looking for the siren, a decent siren for this thing, I was looking in my Pershing kit, and I happened to have, I had used my turret for a different project, but I still had this wonderful gun, and I just couldn't help myself. So I've upgunned this now to a 90mm, and I decided to change the paint just a little bit. The Testors color was good, but I decided, because of, well, whatever reason, just being me, I guess, I mixed up some Tamiya. I used the Tamiya olive drab with a little bit of dark yellow in it to lighten it up, and that's what's given me this color through here. And then I just used Tamiya's dark yellow to do the camouflage on the side. So the color modulation is by either adding a little bit of black to that Tamiya color or a little bit more yellow to it. We're going to try and get this finished up. I'm going to gloss coat it here in a few minutes, and then we're going to put some decals on. So stay with us. Well, we've got our clear coat on, and the reason I put it on before I did my pin wash is I didn't want to take the chance of filtering the color that I had. I like this lighter green, and I really didn't want to make it any darker, so I gave it a clear coat with Future or Pledge Floor Care, whatever it is this week. We've all known it as Future, but anyway, so I gave it that coat, and then I went through and I put my pin wash in, and you can see here in these areas where it's sunk down in and done a pretty good job. And then I went ahead and threw my decals on. And I decided I wanted a little bit of color this time. Just, I don't know why, but I went ahead and put this on the side. I'm going to tone it down a little bit, but very rudimentary decals on this. Well, here we are at Mad Dog's Armor Museum, and the finished product of the M6. You can see that I put a little bit of a rust streaks on it. I used a Winsor Newton oil, kind of a brown oil that I just wiped with some turpentine. And up here, this is Larry's bath water that we used for the fuel streaks. You can see how the tracks turned out. I did one more wash with Tamiya's gunmetal. Added a little bit of stowage, tied it down. And you can see we've added a better axe and a better sledgehammer, a better pick handle, and a better shovel on this side. And there's that big 90mm gun. This side, again, you can see the fuel streaks. The big weld seam, yeah, I think it is a little overdone as well, but oh well, it's how it went. I put a little bit of a dry brush of a brown on the edges to kind of give it that beginning of rusting look in some areas. And of course the color modulation I did with the Tamiya paints on the olive drab. Gave it a decent pick head. I really like it. I used an antenna mount actually from the Italieri Fury kit. It actually looks pretty darn good. Of course I didn't mount the antenna. I figured that at this point in time I just wasn't going to try and make an antenna and fit on here. So and the whole antenna mount, which would really only have been used, in my understanding, on a command tank. So anyway, there you go, the M6.